Welcome back to Mystic Codex. Settle into a comfortable place, relax, and prepare to listen carefully to a story that spans millennia and transforms a terrifying demon into a modern icon. You can close your eyes and let the narrative envelop you, or follow along with the visuals we have prepared to illustrate the secrets we are about to uncover. Today, we delve into the haunting legend of Lilith. She is a figure shrouded in mystery and fear, with an origin story that is far more complex and ancient than you might imagine. To begin our journey, we must travel back in time, to ancient Mesopotamia, where we find fascinating clues etched into clay. In this period, people faced daily dangers from the unknown, and they sought magical protection from malevolent forces. Take a look at this artifact. It is an incantation bowl, just one of several hundred examples discovered in the region dating from the 6th to the 8th century. These shallow clay bowls were a form of magical defense, covered in spiraling inscriptions intended to ward off demons and misfortune. The text typically begins at the rim and moves inward, often towards a little drawing of a demon, sometimes bound in chains, a clear message of control and containment. Some of these drawings seem to specifically target a female demon, a figure that would eventually become synonymous with terror and defiance. But what was it about this demoness that made entire communities seek magical protection against her? The answer begins with ancient fears and the very first whispers of her name. The earliest traces of the character we now know as Lilith reach back more than 4,000 years, into ancient Mesopotamian beliefs. The name itself seems to come from the Sumerian word Lil, meaning wind or spirit, and the Akkadian words Lilu and Lilitu, which referred to a class of male and female demons, respectively. While our knowledge of these beings is limited, ancient Akkadian medical texts reveal that they were blamed for a variety of diseases and physical ailments. These demons were believed to target the opposite sex, with Lilu attacking women and Lilitu attacking men. Consider this medical text, which attributes a person's seizures to one of these spirits. It describes the symptoms with unsettling detail. If when a state of confusion comes over him, he rolls the whites of his eyes and blood flows from his nose. And then it offers a simple diagnosis: a woman is afflicted by a Lilu, a man by a Lilitu. These were not just abstract concepts, they were the personification of deep-seated fears and incomprehensible illnesses. The texts also suggest that these Lilu demons were the tormented ghosts of young men and women who died before their time, condemned to wander the earth unfulfilled. They were seen as especially dangerous to the living, particularly those who died without experiencing marriage or having children. And thus they terrorized the young and sexually active. One text speaks of an ardent lily, or maiden lily, a type of wandering spirit associated with negative sexuality, that would slip in a man's window. This specific description points to her being a kind of succubus, a female demon who seduces and preys upon men in their sleep. According to some scholars, these demons were the embodiment of sexual envy, the unhappy ghosts of those who never found satisfaction in life. The ritualistic response to this threat was to perform a symbolic marriage between male and female Lilith figurines, with the hope that the demons would pair off with each other and lose interest in their human victims. This early history shows us that Lilith was not yet a singular character, but rather a category of demon, a terrifying type of spirit that haunted the night and embodied a society's anxieties about death, disease, and desire. But even within this broader category, there were named figures that significantly shaped Lilith's later identity. The epic poem Gilgamesh and the Hulapu Tree, from around 2000 BCE, may refer to a female demon named Lel, though this is a subject of scholarly debate. What is far more accepted, however, is that the Lilith we know was heavily influenced by the Mesopotamian demonic goddess, Lamashtu. She was infamous for attacking infants and women during childbirth, a time of extreme vulnerability in the ancient world. We know this because dozens of amulets from that era were created specifically to protect people from her wrath. Lamashtu was often depicted as a monstrous hybrid, with a lion's or bird's head, covered in feathers, and talons for feet. Many incantations against her speak directly of the threat she posed to birthing mothers and their newborns. An old Assyrian incantation describes her as fierce, fearsome, divine. The daughter of Anu is a she-wolf. She intercepts the running youth. She utterly smashes the tiny ones. In this earliest stage of Lilith's development, we can clearly see a strong connection to the perils of childbirth and infancy. This was no coincidence. In an age where reconstructing precise statistics is difficult, we know that infant mortality was shockingly high, with some estimates placing it at 20 to 30%. Maternal mortality was also undoubtedly a constant fear. In this context, demons like the Lilu and Lamashtu arose to personify these anxieties, giving a face and a name to the profound grief and helplessness that came with losing a loved one. Lilith, in the Jewish mythology that followed, became a blend of these ancient fears, merging the baby-snatching terror of Lamashtu with the negative sexuality and haunting nature of the ghostly Lilu spirits. The transition from these ancient figures to the Lilith of Jewish mythology is a fascinating one. The idea of Lilith as Adam's first wife, a narrative that is so common today, actually has no basis in the Hebrew Bible. In fact, the name Lilith appears only once in the entire text. It's a single mention in the book of Isaiah, chapter 34. In this passage, the God of Israel promises to lay waste to the neighboring kingdom of Edom, turning it into a barren wasteland. Verse 14 paints a picture of this devastation. Wildcats shall meet with hyenas, goat demons shall call to each other. There also Lilith shall repose and find a place to rest. The text offers no further details, suggesting that the original audience was already familiar with who or what Lilith was. Based on the context, she seems to be a type of wilderness demoness, a creature comfortable in a desolate and ruined landscape. However, the translation of this single word is highly debated among scholars. Some argue that it's not the proper name of a specific demon, but rather refers to a class of demon, similar to the Mesopotamian Lilitu. In this case, it would be more accurately translated as the Lilith with a lowercase l. Other scholars believe it doesn't refer to a demon at all, but to a nocturnal animal, like an owl. This disagreement is clearly visible in various translations of the Bible. The NIV translates the word as night creatures, the ESV as nightbird, and the KJV as screech owl. But it's important to note that the supernatural interpretation of this verse caught on very early. Ancient Greek translators rendered the word as a type of centaur, and the Latin translation used the word lamia, a baby-killing monster from Greco-Roman mythology. So, even if we're not entirely sure what the original text meant, people in antiquity certainly assumed it referred to a demonic or supernatural entity. And this figure, a child-killing, anti-fertility demon, eventually finds its way into the demonology of Second Temple Judaism. Lilith's presence becomes much clearer in later Jewish traditions. She appears by name in the Dead Sea Scrolls, where she is included in a list of malevolent beings in an exorcistic hymn. This text calls upon God to ward off a parade of evil spirits, including the spirits of destroying angels and the bastard spirits, the demons and Lilith. Here, she is presented as a singular entity. But other scrolls from the same period suggest that the name could still refer to a category of demon. For example, a version of Isaiah 34 verse 14 found at Qumran uses the plural Lilith, once again pointing to a species rather than a single being. She becomes a far more prominent figure in the early centuries of Rabbinic Judaism, as mentioned in the Babylonian Talmud. These texts describe Lilith as a humanoid female demon with wings and long hair. A rabbi of the time was so concerned about her that he proposed banning people from sleeping alone, warning that anyone in a house by themselves could be seized by Lilith. But she wasn't just a concern for the spiritual elite. The incantation bowls we began with are physical evidence that Lilith was a very real fear for everyday people in Jewish communities in Mesopotamia. Dating to the same time the Talmud was being completed, these bowls show a remarkable overlap with rabbinic texts, and were likely composed by religious specialists to combat this demonic foe. Many of these magical formulas are a form of symbolic divorce papers, in which a practitioner would formally separate themselves from a Lilith. One inscription reads, "This is the deed of divorce of the Lilith, Lilith's male Lilith and female Lilith. You are stripped naked, your mother is the Lilith Pal-Hadad. Go out from the house and from the dwelling and from the body of this Hormes son of Imma and from his wife." This text reveals a few key things about the belief system of the time. It shows that Lilith was still considered a species of demon, and that there were named individuals, like Lilith Pal-Hadad, a demoness with a specific name. It also reminds us that Liliths were believed to be both male and female, echoing the ancient Mesopotamian Lilu and Litu. The scholar Nama Vasni suggests that the sex of these demons was often ambiguous, and they could shapeshift to prey on their victims. This is made explicit in another incantation bowl. This is an amulet against the Lilith that haunt the house of this Ephra, who appear to humans, to men in the likeness of women and to women in the likeness of men. This body of evidence shows that for thousands of years, Lilith was consistently viewed as a shape-shifting demonic species, dangerous and ever-present. The most famous part of Lilith's story, that she was Adam's first wife, is the one thing completely missing from all of this ancient evidence. So, where did this powerful myth come from? This new narrative first appears in the early medieval period, in an anonymous Jewish text called the Alphabet of Ben Sira, written somewhere between the 8th and 10th centuries. This text expands on the story of creation found in Genesis. In this version, God creates Lilith from the same dust of the earth as Adam, making them equals. But she refuses to accept Adam's authority, especially in the bedroom, where she insists on sexual equality. When Adam refuses to allow her to be on top, she utters the unpronounceable four-letter name of God and flies away to the Red Sea. 3 angels are sent to bring her back, but she refuses to return. After they threaten to drown her, she defiantly tells them, "Leave me. I was created only to cause sickness to infants." This passage serves as a mythical explanation for her association with child killing, a fear that we know was ancient. The story also provides a justification for the use of amulets to ward her off, as the angels and Lilith reach a settlement, with her promising to spare any infant who wears an amulet with their names inscribed on it. This version of Lilith is a profoundly evil and defiant anti-mother, killing human babies while simultaneously giving birth to hundreds of demonic babies. The myth itself seems to have been created to fill a perceived plot hole in the book of Genesis. Scholars have long noted that Genesis has two creation stories. Genesis 1 simply says, "So God created humans in his image. Male and female he created them." While Genesis 2 gives a different account, where God first creates Adam, and then later creates Eve from his rib. Some Jewish scholars likely attempted to reconcile these two stories by proposing that they referred to the creation of two different women, the first being Lilith, and the second being Eve. This version of the story is the one most familiar to modern audiences, and it became the foundation for her later identity. Lilith's identity continued to evolve throughout the medieval period. She became a prominent figure in the Jewish mystical tradition known as Kabbalah. In this new mythology, she is paired with the evil figure Samael, a being similar to Satan in Christianity. In this narrative, Samael is not a second husband, but her original, primordial mate. This created a kind of parallelism between Adam and Eve and Lilith and Samael, a dark and powerful counter-narrative to the creation story. But perhaps the most dramatic and ironic transformation in her long history happened much more recently. In the 20th century, Lilith was completely rebranded, shifting from a malevolent figure to an inspiring second-wave feminist icon. She became a symbol of independence, defiance, and empowerment. In 1976, a group of Jewish women founded a magazine with a mission to amplify Jewish feminist voices, and they chose to name it Lilith. One of the founders, Susan Weidman Schneider, described the cover of the first issue as a Jewish superwoman who balanced all possible roles while walking a tightrope. The magazine directly addressed the Lilith question. Why choose the name Lilith? Is Lilith a model for Jewish women? The publication conceptualized her not as a vengeful witch, but as a powerful female figure who radiated strength and refused to be a victim. The very qualities that had defined her as wicked in ancient texts, her independence and her refusal to submit, were now celebrated as positive traits. By the end of the century, this feminist reinterpretation spread beyond Jewish communities, finding a new home in contemporary pagan circles. A quick search on YouTube will show countless videos from modern witches on how to work with Lilith in their daily ritual practice. This positive reinterpretation may even be reflected in broader society. Because the name Lilith has skyrocketed in popularity since the early 2010s. In 2010, it was the 900th most popular name for girls, but by 2022, it had jumped to the 270th most popular name. So, for most of her 4,000-year history, Lilith was an unambiguously malevolent figure, dangerous specifically to women and children. But here, in the 21st century, she is a malleable character, reshaped to resonate with contemporary audiences in a powerful and ironic twist. Lilith's long and complex history demonstrates how a culture's deepest anxieties, especially around birth, death, and desire, can manifest in a single figure that changes and adapts over millennia. Her journey from a terrifying Mesopotamian demon to a modern feminist icon is a powerful testament to the enduring nature of stories. If you found this video fascinating, and you want to continue exploring the strange and mysterious side of history with us, Make sure to subscribe to Mystic Codex. Activate the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the world of occult stories and forgotten tales. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.